You saw the title, you know what we're doing here. Ranger. Wow, real original. Put the Ranger as the worst class in the game. Well, yeah, the Ranger is genuinely the only class in D&D that feels like it's fighting itself. Firstly, I freaking love Rangers. I love all of their custom spells. I love the theming. I've loved playing Rangers in the past so much, but it's because Rangers are so awesome that their problems are so much more frustrating. The 2024 features being built around Hunter's Mark mean that you need to have it active to access your late game abilities, and you need to be using your bonus action to set it up and move it around a lot. That means that subclasses which rely on that bonus action, like the Beastmaster and the Drake Warden, are handicapped immediately. So are any multi-classes that would do the same, like the Monk or the Rogue, which otherwise would be badass builds when combined with Ranger. Other concentration spells can also get boned. And of course, there's the level 20 capstone, which raises the damage of your Hunter's Mark from a D6 to a D10, which is probably the single greatest piece of game design ever imagined. It reminds me that nothing matters, that I will die one day and there is nothing I can do about it. Very powerful stuff. Look, I feel bad for criticizing the Ranger because it's obviously very clearly Wizards of the Coast's least favorite class as well. There's only 8 subclasses, which means it's tied for the fewest outside of Artificer, and a lot of them are kind of made redundant by others. The Beastmaster and Drake Warden are really just spins on each other, even though I do like them both. They're not particularly unique. And Rangers still have an identity problem. In your typical D&D games, kind of everyone is living out the Ranger fantasy. We're all traveling the world, we're all sleeping rough, we're all fighting monsters, so there's not really much to let the Rangers stand out, aside from being a responsible pet owner. But that doesn't mean all Rangers are weak, or that you can't have fun playing as one, especially if you're only playing in a game that caps out at levels 8 or 9. However, compared to the rest of the options in the game, they are the most restricted by their core abilities. Artificer. Okay, hear me out. I love the Artificer. From a certain point of view, it's like a top 5 class in the game. But I also hate the Artificer, and it's by a country mile the worst class in the game, much worse than the Ranger could ever be. First things first, a half-caster that rocks armor and utility spells and mains the intelligence stat is very cool. The core Artificer features are also cool. Magical tinkering is flavorful, and I love Artificer infusions to give you awesome gear for yourself or the rest of the party. Some of these are worth building around all on their own. Mind Sharpener to give you unbreakable concentration checks, or Replicate Magic Item to give your DM a brain aneurysm. Flash of Genius is great to support your allies, kind of like a slightly weaker Paladin aura, and I love that you can attune to more magic items as you increase in levels. Artificers also have 3 awesome subclasses and 1 embarrassing subclass that can very easily be homebrewed to be just as good as the others. They do lose points for being under-supported by Wizards of the Coast. I mean, there's only 4 subclasses here, and Artificers have never seen any love in any subsequent books. It's not like they release extra Artificer infusions or anything like that. Also, Artificers can struggle to fit in medieval fantasy campaigns. If you're running a Lord of the Rings style game, it's a bit weird to have someone rocking an AK-47 on the side. Now, I think you totally can flavor the Artificer to work in pretty much any type of setting, but a lot of people disagree and they just ignore the Artificer as a result. However, the biggest problem, which basically ruins this class, is that Wizards of the Coast have actively never released it into Creative Commons or the system reference document. That means nobody, not even Keith Baker, the dude who literally invented the class, is allowed to create content for it. Every other class in D&D has a pool of hundreds of thousands of amazing, daring, innovative options that you can pull from as homebrew. The Artificer has none. We should shout out the new Reanimator Artificer UA WotC have dropped, which seems to imply they're interested in finally doing something for the class after 6 years. But I ended up running a $1,000 contest for the community just to get more awesome homebrew created for the Artificer. Until it's really, truly free to be enjoyed, it can't go any higher. Okay, so you wake up on a beach. Great, I start. What the hell is he doing? Oh, I'm paying him $120 an hour to add ambient noise and soundscapes to our games. For the immersion. Okay, well, I go over to my horse. That's a cow noise! You're a cow noise! Whoa, calm down, guys. This guy sucks. Let's just use table tone. Table tone? Tabletone is a mobile app for tabletop RPGs that delivers studio-quality adaptive soundscapes. I've been using it in my IRL games to bring tension, realism, and immersion to our stories. It's all human-made, no AI audio slop, and you can download and use it completely for free with the basic content pack. If you want to really take things to the highest level, you can also get 30% off the first 3 months of a premium subscription with my code DNDShorts30. Bring adaptable and immersive audio to your games and supercharge your worlds with life. Available on both Android and iOS, get started today with Tabletone's ever-growing library of sounds and ambience for free with the link in description. Bard. I am a former musical child prodigy. That is not a joke. Here is my master's degree in music performance with distinction. You would think I would love playing bards. Well, bards do get some cool things. Jack of all trades buffs all your skills, you get a bunch of expertises, and magical secrets eventually lets you learn any spell in the entire game. The reason I put bards low on my list is because the more I run games and the more I play in games, the more I realize that bards are just deeply unscrupulous little bastards. Bards cannot be trusted. I feel like the only time a bard build comes along that people get excited about, it is busted to high heaven. This is a list of personal taste, not power, otherwise bards would be near the top. You've got valor bards upcasting conjure minor elementals for insane damage, or you've got eloquence bards with their silver tongue, meaning they can never roll lower than like a 24 on every single persuasion and deception check. Now, bardic inspiration is a balanced feature, sure, but it does slow the game down. Adding dice to someone else's roll is the least interesting way to help someone in D&D. It's not tactical or considerate, it's just, hey, here's some bardic inspiration, use it in the next minute. And then the bard gets to sit there at the table hyperventilating because no one is using their inspiration. Bards also have another issue which make them very challenging to write for as a game designer, and that's that they only get 3 subclass features across the entire game. You get something at level 3, and then again at level 6, and then nothing until level 14. 2 level 12 bards, even from completely different colleges, are only actually different because of 2 subclass features. This can make a lot of bards feel very similar. It also makes bards one of the hardest to write for, and although I have made some that I really like, the Mime Bard from my website and the Masks Bard from Ryoko's Guide come to mind, they are never easy to create for. It also doesn't help that music itself pretty much has no mechanical relevance to D&D at all. Like, it's just another performance check that you're making. You may as well be good at tap dancing or blowing bubblegum. Rogue. Look, the vibes on the Rogue are awesome. You're sneaking around, stabbing people in the back, dealing big damage. I love the murder vibes. Cunning action is a really cool feature. You get to feel like you're dashing about, hitting people, and then vanishing into shadow. It's great. But the big issue with the Rogue is quite simply that they're weak. They come in below every other martial class for damage. Your sneak attack requires quite a few rogue levels before it really gets exciting, so multiclassing is quite painful, and you have to sacrifice even more sneak attack to trigger your cunning strikes. I mean, cunning strikes are cool, but giving up damage to do them when you're already dealing the least damage of the martials is rough. And in the same way that I'm kind of bored by Silver Tongue on the Bard, the Rogue's reliable talent just does the same. It negates any chance of failure. Great, you can't roll lower on a 24 in Persuasion or Deception. Now it's basically impossible for any normal person to resist your charm or detect when you're lying. I mean, you don't even need to bother rolling dice at that point if you don't want to. However, I do freaking love the 2024 Thief subclass and the good old Swashbuckler Rogue. Rogues can also make some interesting multiclasses. One of my favorite builds in the game is the unorthodox 1 to 3 levels in Barbarian on a strength-based Rogue. So despite being kind of weak, for flavor and style points alone, I could see many people absolutely loving the Rogue. Fighter. I wish I could be more controversial here, but yeah, the stereotypes are kind of true. Fighters can be a bit boring in D&D. Still, if you're only going to be good at one thing in this game, making lots of attacks is a good thing to be good at. The big issue for fighters, in my opinion, is almost everything that they can do, other classes can do in a more tactically interesting way. Paladins rock heavy armor and big melee weapons, but they also have smites and spells and auras to play with. Monks make turn tons of attacks as well, but with more movement and control options, and generally speaking, it's cooler to punch someone than to stab them. And this last one is more personal taste, but I think barbarians are the more fun, turn your brain off and smash class, if you want to go that route. And that's not to mention barbarians got some crazy boosts to their roleplay abilities in 2024. Now, to be fair, fighters did too. Tactical Mind is an awesome feature that adds 1d10 to any ability check you want to make. And fighters are still great multi-class dips. Starting off your build with fighter gets you heavy armor proficiency, con save proficiency, weapon proficiencies, weapon masteries, and a fighting style. Fighters are also still the best ranged weapon users in the game, which is kind of another blow to rangers, but you know, it is what it is. Now, this is the coldest D&D hot take ever, but the Battlemaster fighter subclass should just be reworked and folded into the fighter core class. Give all fighters access to maneuvers and superiority dice, maybe starting at level 6 so you don't terrify new players, and boom, this class just got fantastic. But despite everything I've just said, I do not want to put you off fighters. They are super solid. Action Surge is awesome, and Indomitable is a low-key, massively underappreciated ability that makes you feel like a badass. And this is a roleplay game. You can make any character or any build interesting. I just think with fighters, you have to work a little harder than the rest of the entries on this list. Druid. Once upon a time, Druid was my favorite class. Wild Shape, as a feature, is so freaking cool. Casting off Wisdom is so cool. Druids who cast Shillelagh and charge into battle before beating enemies to death with a stick are so freaking cool. So why the relatively low ranking? Well, I've come to realize that Druids do have issues. And they're also weirdly contradictory. Druids are simultaneously insanely complicated, but also kind of starved of meaningful class features. You get Wild Shape, of course, which despite being awesome, is the most complicated class feature in the game. And it's also not that relevant for a lot of druids. There's a reason why moon druids are so popular. It's because they are kind of the only ones where your wild shape form is actually useful in combat. Seeing as it is the core identifying feature of the class, it's a shame that wild shape's only actually used for scouting and movement options most of the time. But also, after level 2, guess how many core features the druids get across the rest of the game? It gets 5 across 18 levels, and all but 2 of them are totally forgettable. Level 5, you can trade spell slots for Wild Shape. Level 18, you can cast spells while Wild Shaped. And level 20, you get a fairly boring capstone feature that basically amounts to 1 more high-level spell slot per day. Now, Elemental Fury, which you get at level 7 and upgrades at level 15, and buffs either your cantrips or your weapon attacks, is genuinely a good feature, but it's also a complete ripoff of the Cleric's Blessed Strikes. And finally, Druids have a pretty mixed bag of subclasses. The 2014 Land and the 2024 Sea Druids are quite mid, while the Moon, Wildfire, and Spore Druids are all awesome. Wizard. Now, this is a deep cut. This is going to annoy people, but hear me out. I, like everyone else on the planet, love the Bladesinger Wizard. It is so fun. One of my favorite ever characters was a Bladesinger. But I think there's a reason everyone loves the Bladesinger, and it's because it doesn't play like a normal wizard. Most wizard subclasses are very non-intrusive. You get one kind of interesting feature like Arcane Ward or Hypnotic Gaze, but most of the time you are standing at the back, trying to avoid damage with spells like Shield, and firing off powerful spells like Hypnotic Gaze and Fireball. That's totally fine in theory, but when that's your play pattern for the entirety of the game, the question becomes, why not play a sorcerer? They do basically the same thing, but they have the tools to make that type of gameplay more exciting and more tactical. Now, wizards do also have some very powerful subclasses like Divination and Chronomancy, but those ones are kind of verging on annoying levels of broken. Portent is another example of a mechanic that removes the chance of failure from the game, just like Silvery Tongue and Reliable Talent, and Chronergy wizards are just silvery barbs on a stick combined with a level 10 unstoppable instant kill combo. Now, don't get it twisted, wizards are great, but because their playstyle is very similar to Sorcerer, and I personally prefer Sorcerers, it makes it rare that I ever want to play a wizard, unless it is a Bladesinger, of course. Cleric. Clerics in D&D are an apology to the tedious white mages in RPGs of old. These divine bastards are great at everything. You've got the best healing in the game, and also some of the best AC thanks to your shields and heavy armor granted by half of your subclasses. And you have crazy damage right from the get-go with spells like Inflict Wounds and Spiritual Weapon, which go way harder than necessary in the 2014 rules. 2014 clerics also get their subclasses from level 1, which gives you a ton of options from the first roll of the game and makes them joint first place winners of the best multi-class dip in D&D. Casting off Wisdom also buffs great skills like Perception and Insight, and Blessed Strikes is great for any type of cleric you want to build, buffing either your weapon attacks or your cantrips. It's so good that druids stole it. The 2024 cleric also gets Divine Intervention at level 10, which is straight up busted if you cast the Hallow spell with it. And all of that's not to mention the frankly crazy amount of cleric subclasses you have to choose from. If you want to go big blaster caster vibes, you go Tempest Cleric. If you want to build your own paladin with better spells, go War Cleric. And if you want to push your DM into depression and alcoholism, go Twilight. The 2014 cleric is the more powerful of the two versions due to various nerfs to spells, but the 2024 cleric is still incredibly strong, and all of that's before you consider the roleplay opportunities baked into this class. The typical D&D world is defined by its relationships to mighty beings, be they demons, dragons, or gods, and you are right in the middle of that. It's a springboard to explore past interactions with your church, or your god, or your community, or rival gods and their worshippers. The whole holy package. Awesome class. There's just a handful of classes that I personally prefer the core gameplay gimmick of more than the cleric's channel divinity. Monk. So monks have evolved from being pretty bad to fairly good, but they've always been very fun. Monks do everything you could want to fill out that martial artist fantasy. They speed blitz enemies, they flip around, they make loads of attacks, and they have some dope subclasses. Your main feature is focus/key points, which open up your iconic Flurry of Blows bonus action. This makes monks the class that attack the most in the game on average, even more than fighters and warlocks. And the more attacks you make, the more click-clacks you roll, the more dopamine you get. It really is that simple. Monks also just have features that are cool. Catching an arrow and throwing it back at the shooter is badass. Running on water is badass. Getting proficiency in every saving throw in the game, including death saves, is badass. The 2024 rules also helped out with monks' resource management, giving them the new uncanny metabolism, so you're never really going to be caught without focus points. And of course, the monk's stunning strike has always been busted. It's less powerful because you can't spam it on every single attack anymore, but this is a limitation that actually makes monks less cheesy and more fun. You're no longer incentivized to just spam stunning strike. You can use your focus points on other cool abilities as well. They're also really fun to DM. I'm always happy when I'm running a game and a monk shows up in the party. Plus, great subclasses, the new Elements Monk, the Dragon Monk, the Mercy Monk, the Shadow Monk, the Long Death Monk, all awesome. And in 2014, the Open Hand Monk has arguably the coolest feature in the game, Quivering Palm, letting you kill a creature days after you hit them. I'm also a sucker for the original Monk Empty Body feature, which turned you invisible and gave you resistance to all damage. But the new Monk upgraded your unarmed strikes and gave you a capstone that is actually useful now, so all in, I'd say it's worth it to take the 2024 version. Barbarian. Really? Barbarians in 4th place? Well, look, I just think Barbarian is the ultimate beginner-friendly class. Yes, better than fighters, and Rage is just such a fundamentally awesome mechanic that only got better in 2024. Rage gives you resistance to the 3 most common damage types in the game, obviously, but it also now buffs a bunch of your skills. Barbarians are literally one of the best roleplay classes now, while still being able to focus all their stats into strength and constitution, so you're tanky as hell. Subclass-wise, you've got awesome options like World Tree, Beast, Totem Warrior, and Giant, and Reckless Attack means you're hitting hard and hitting often. And because you're a frontline tank, you are also getting hit a lot, which is fun. It means you're always interacting with the enemy in some way. The downside of Barbarians is that beyond level 9, they do kind of fall off, and unless you're getting some really transformative subclass abilities later in the game, your turn is going to pretty much look the same at level 1 as it does at level 20. Rage and attack. Yeah, the 2024 Brutal Strikes are an upgrade over the 2014 Brutal Criticals, but it's nothing too crazy. It's also incredibly hard to multi-class Barbarian with any type of spellcaster, outside of one very janky meme build that's Barbarian and Wizard, and one genuinely awesome and interesting mix of Barbarian and Warlock. But because Rage is such a fundamentally powerful ability that arrives at just level 1 in both 2014 and 2024, Barbarians are fantastic dips for martials, like strength-based fighters, rogues, and even monks. When it comes to multiclassing, a Barbarian dip is usually the secret sauce behind a really interesting and powerful build. And all of that is wrapped up in a package that is really accessible and simple to master for noobs. Barbarian is also one of my favorite classes to design for. For some reason, I am never out of ideas for Barbarian subclasses. They're amazing, but alas, to make it into my top 3, you've got to be something really special. Paladin. Smite is right, baby. Paladins are straight up my favorite martials in D&D. Remember all that awesome roleplay that clerics get tied to their divinity? Well, paladins have that too, which is a great start. They also have a lot of the advantages of fighters. Big swords, weapon mastery, heavy armor, extra attack, and they can cast spells on top. Paladins also have the largest collection of individually badass class features in the game. Lay on Hands is cool, Divine Smite is awesome, 2024's Faithful Steed is awesome, Aura of Protection is awesome, and at level 20, every paladin becomes an avatar of total obliteration. There's also a smorgasbord of awesome subclasses to choose from, Vengeance and Devotion being my favorite two that WotC have made. The 2024 Paladin does have some nerfs over the original, but they also got some buffs, so I do think it kind of shakes out evenly. But here's the thing, you can do what the hell you like in this game. I totally just use the old Paladin rules in the games that I run. Boom, best of both worlds. But why pick Paladin over Cleric? I mean, War Clerics are right there, and Clerics are more powerful in the late game. Well, I just prefer having high Charisma over high Wisdom for roleplay reasons, and I think Paladin's unique features are a little more interesting than Clerics. But maybe the biggest reason Paladins come out on top is because of how well they synergize with the best two classes in the game. Sorcerer. So wizards are nerds, clerics and paladins are simps, but sorcerers are full-on fireball-flinging, ass-kicking gods amongst mortals. Sorcerer being so fun to play is kind of the reason wizards are ranked so low on this list, because they do fill similar niches. They're both firing off power spells like Shield, Hypnotic Pattern, and Dominate Person, and they're both squishy little D6 hit die marshmallows. However, sorcerers just get given the good stuff in a way that no other full caster does. They get proficiency in con saves, making them the best casters at holding on to those powerful game warping spells. They also cast off charisma, synergizing with your powerful roleplay skills. In 2014, they also get their subclass at level 1, making them a fantastic dip for paladins to grab the shield spell, cantrips, proficiency in con saves, extra first level smite slots, and a rocking subclass feature on top. And their splashy unique feature is Meta Magic, which is arguably the coolest spellcasting adjacent feature in the game. You get a pool of sorcery points, which you can expend to make spells more awesome or generate more spell slots. The 2014 Twin Spell Meta Magic is so freaking cool. You can turn 2 allies into giant apes with polymorph and a single spell slot and have your own mini kaiju battle. You can double the power of brutal suck or save effects like Hold Person or Banishment. Then there's the Subtle Spell Meta Magic, letting you cast spells without any verbal or somatic components. You can just fire off Charm Person or Disintegrate mid-conversation and nobody will be able to prove that it was you. In fact, it couldn't be you, because you're blatantly not casting a spell. Quicken Spell lets you fire off a full powered spell as a bonus action, leaving your main action free for a follow-up cantrip or a magic item or a powerful subclass feature like Warping Implosion. I just freaking love meta magic, guys, and it's not even the only cool thing that sorcerers get. Sure, the 2024 rules did nerf Twinned Spell, but it also gave us a new feature that is criminally underrated: Innate Sorcery. Bonus action to activate, and you have advantage on every attack roll that is a sorcerer spell you make, and all your sorcerer spells get a +1 to their save DC. That is crazy. Barbarian's Reckless Attack wishes it was this good. This stomps on that that feature, and you get 2 uses per day, and from level 7, you can burn a couple of sorcery points to do it again. The level 20 capstone feature, which gives you a free metamagic option per turn, might not sound too great, but remember, not all metamagic options are created equal. By using that option on heightened spell or quickened spell, you are essentially getting 2 free sorcery points every single round. Sure, it's not crazy, but it's not bad, and we all know that the real sorcerer capstone feature is the ability to cast Wish from level 17. And we haven't even talked about subclasses. So many cool subclasses, like Aberrant Mind, or even Aberrant Mind. I really like Aberrant Mind. But I guess Draconic, Divine Soul, Shadow, and Wild Magic are all badass as well. Honestly, I can't think of a reason, unless you are brand new to the game and intimidated by any type of spellcasting, that you shouldn't play Sorcerer. Well, okay, there is one reason, and that's because instead of Sorcerer, you've chosen to play the best class in the game, Warlock. Look, I don't just love Warlocks in D&D. They're like in my top 5 favorite things in the world. It goes like my nephews, my dog, the seminal 2-season run of the 2008 TV show Spectacular Spider-Man, and then it's the 5th edition Warlock. And it's quite simply because invocations are the most brilliant piece of game design in the entirety of D&D. Warlocks get Eldritch Blast, the best cantrip in the game. It deals 1d10 force damage on a hit, and as it levels up, it fires more beams. That means more damage, but also you can split the damage between multiple creatures standing apart from each other, something no other cantrip can do. It's simple enough that even the ultimate noob can get the hang of it, but simultaneously more powerful than any weapon in the game, and that's because you can upgrade it with your invocations. Agonizing Blast pumps damage, Lance of Lethargy turns it into a slow ray, Grasp of Hadar and Repelling Blast let you push and pull enemies around the battlefield, which, by the way, is completely busted in combination with the Spike Growth spell. It's like the Battlemaster Fighter's maneuvers, but every Warlock gets them, they're not tied to a resource, and you can make them as complex or as simple as you like. But it's not only Eldritch Blast that gets a buff, invocations are just a free grab bag of mini feats. There's an invocation that grabs you Devil's Sight for exploiting magical darkness. There's an invocation that grabs you any origin feat in the game. There's one for grabbing advantage on all concentration saves, and there's one that lets you cast Disguise Self infinitely for free, turning you into a full-on shapeshifter. In the 2024 rules, even the classic packed boons are now invocations. You can grab a super familiar from level 1 with Pact of the Chain, or make all attack rolls off your charisma modifier with Pact of the Blade. Then there's the fact that Warlocks are just unique spellcasters. They have their own spell slot management system. You get fewer spell slots, sure, but they recharge on a short rest. That means you operate on a completely different axis to every other caster in the game. It's not about spamming Fireball and then begging for a long rest. It's about considering the perfect spell for the perfect time and then begging for a short rest. Your spell slots also grow in power automatically. Bam, you're level 11, you have 3 spell slots, and every spell is cast at 5th level. The Warlock spell list is also dope. Shadow of Moil, Armor of Agathis, oh, they're just fun to say, let alone cast. And Warlocks are, once again, charisma focused, making you fantastic at all that roleplay stuff. And, like clerics, you come with a built-in relationship to some sort of higher power. But, unlike clerics, who typically love their god and get to represent them, warlocks can be a bit juicier. You could have made a dark deal with an evil entity that you hate, but you have to keep honoring. Maybe you stole their power and you're hoping they don't notice. Maybe they granted their power to you without your permission or even your knowledge because they have plans for you down the line. Being a charisma caster also means you synergize beautifully with paladins and sorcerers, and the fact that a warlock dip is so great for those classes is a big part of why they're so high on this list. I mean, sorcerer warlock is the most famous combo in Dungeons & Dragons 5e, the coffee lock, giving you infinite spell slots as long as you don't fall asleep. I'm not going to explain it here, but you can look it up. And can we just talk about these subclasses, babe? There isn't a single warlock subclass that isn't totally badass, except you. You get out of here. The Genie is my favorite subclass in the game. followed by the Fiend, which is another Warlock option. The only problem I have with Warlocks is it's hard for me to justify playing anything else. Warlock subclasses are so transformatively different from one another, and your pacts and invocations change so much about how you play the game that you can run Warlock after Warlock after Warlock across multiple years with different characters and never once have a build that is similar to a previous one. Even a total noob can get the hang of spamming Eldritch Blast without having to juggle too many spell slots, but the class is as deep and rich as the ocean for pros to endlessly explore and innovate. And they're great fun to design for as well. But did you know 50% of all YouTube ad revenue from this channel goes straight to charities that you can vote on? I am personally supported entirely by you on Patreon and through YouTube memberships. By helping out, you get access to private live streams and the huge D&D expansions that I drop every month, including new subclasses, new species, new rules expansions, and ready-to-play adventures. You can even join the playtesting crew for other games that I create, including the one-page RPG that I'm designing right now. There are other rewards as well. Please check it out if you enjoy this channel. It is what keeps us going. Links to all of that below. Also remember to like and subscribe, check out other videos on the channel, and yeah, that's all I got. I'll see you next time.